Hello and welcome into the RotoWire Esports Show. I am Andrew Laird, joined as always by Ethan Sexton. Today to talk about Saturday's 4-series LPL LCK slate. We've already lost the 5-series slates. Ethan, so yesterday we talked about how you literally could not play a combination of JDG and EDG. They both won, but it didn't matter. Not that it didn't matter, but you couldn't benefit from the two of them. And as I said just before we started recording, I'm going to take credit for saying that some wacky lineups with a non-4-3 was going to win, and at least for some tournaments that you were in, that was the case. But basically, it was tough. The two biggest favorites couldn't be played together, and all the favorites swept. So that just seems like a recipe to get a little wacky.
Yeah. I think you actually nailed the slate from an analysis standpoint, man, because not only did you say, something a little wacky might win, and at least in the stuff I was in, it was a Red Force JDG with a faker one-off in the mid lane that took it down.
Why not?
So not only did you say that, but you also mentioned that it seemed like EDG might be in a situation where they roll but too eeasily, and that's exactly what happened with them, whereas I thought they would score well, and they really didn't. So I think you deserve all the plaudits here today, man.
I'll happily take them. I'll take them. Sometimes you just get them right.
It's nice to be right, but it sucks when you're right, and it doesn't really help your bankroll any, right?
Yep, my bankroll base did not change, so there's that. Let's change it from Saturday's to Saturday's slate. We've got FPX heavily favored against Victory 5, Gen G big favorites against KT, and we've got two very close but very different matchups. Top Esports favored against RNG, and then your boys from Sandbox taking on Fredit Breon as favorites.
Yeah.
The odds for those latter two series are pretty close, but obviously it's two very, very good teams against each other, and two not as good teams against each other. I'll put it that way.
You could say bad. It won't. It's all right.
I wouldn't dream of using the word bad with Sandbox. After what we've seen on this video, I couldn't possibly say it.
Yeah, Sandbox is a favorite. What could go wrong, right? I wanna believe, man, but I don't know. It's kind of an interesting slate because obviously you got the marquee matchup at the end of the day with RNG and Top, and a tough one to call, of course. I mean, two really good teams. I think maybe we should start there because that's the hardest one to call. So, I think that RNG have been great. I mean, all season long. So it was sort of weird to see them priced as underdogs, I thought. I think, to Top's credit, sorry for the mental pause, I had to pull something up, but to Top's credit, they've been great lately.
Yes.
They were shaky to start the year, but they've really righted the ship and come on strong of late. So I don't think it's necessarily insane that they're priced as the favorites. But on DraftKings, you get some decent salary savings by going to RNG, and it's not like RNG have been crap this year, right? So I don't know. It's a really difficult one to call, but I feel like it's one that you're going to want to be on the right side of. And it's hard to tell which side that's going to be.
I completely agree. Just the stats, each team's individual stats are just so good that if they were playing anybody else, we'd be all over them. It's more just that obviously playing each other could make you think, or that's what gives you a hesitation because they're actually playing another very good team. I think without a doubt people are going in that direction versus Sandbox and Fredit Breon if they're looking for a close matchup. It just seems like those Fredit Breon games or series just don't even have a lot of fantasy points. Even if they lose, the winner's not getting a lot. But you could definitely see the winner of RNG and Top just smashing.
Yeah, for sure. Two teams with great upside, right? In wins, they're really good, and this series is probably going to be very competitive. I wouldn't expect one side or the other to really steamroll here. So, you would think that would equate to higher kill games across the series. It's just hard for me to outright pick a winner. I mean, I don't know. I think they're both great teams, and it's just really a challenge. There's no real spot, in either lineup where I'm like, yeah, this is a huge mismatch in this lane or in the jungle or anything like that. So I think recent form gives Top the edge, maybe. Top have ripped off 7 straight series wins, including a sweep of JDG and a 2-1 over, I think a sweep of J. No, I made that up, sorry. But including, a 2-1 win over EDG recently, and they've just been really good, lately. And I think current form, maybe that's why they are, slightly favored in the odds. But on DraftKings, they're pretty expensive in a tough matchup. But I get it because they if they win, they're probably going to score really well. So it makes perfect sense. I could see playing either side of this matchup, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, RNG coming off a 2-0 sweep by JDG, meaning they lost to JDG. So I think
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
has to play some part of it. It is just like crazy to see, like, just as you're building lineups, you just so very rarely get to play RNG with a favorite, and be able to play a carry captain. Like, it's just, you don't get those opportunities that much. And so, I mean, Top have been very, very good recently. So you don't go in and be like, oh, you easily play RNG. But you can play RNG with FPX. You can play them with gen.g. FPX is kind of the most expensive throughout, and I think you can sort of make the argument that maybe they don't need, they'll pull I already forget who it was this morning, EDG.
Yeah.
That you don't get enough points from them, and gen.g coming off their huge win over Damwon. They look like drastically underpriced to me, just in terms, because we've seen teams destroy KT, at least in terms of fantasy points. But being able to play those teams with RNG, you're just like, if you told me like 2 weeks ago, that like on this slate, even forgetting like who that they're playing Top, but I'm like, if you could play FPX and RNG together, would you? And you'd be like, of course. And it's just that they happen to be playing Top that makes you at least hesitate a little bit on it. But I think RNG is going to be really popular, at least in terms of an underdog.
I think so too, just because they come in with that upside, and to your point, you compare them with these two, safer favorites on this slate, and make a lineup that's pretty competitive and has a lot of upside, right? So I think RNG will be pretty popular. I think Top will be pretty, like, they're probably evenly, even in terms of ownership, right? Maybe, or maybe RNG get a little bump just because they're cheap and they're a good team. It could be, but I think they'll end up being similarly owned. But obviously, if you're playing Top, it really limits what you can do with the rest of your lineup.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily matter, because if you play RNG for the salary savings and they get beat, I mean, you're not going to have the winning lineup regardless of being able to play them with favorites, right? So, I can see playing both sides of that matchup, and I think, I would recommend it too, because I think the winner probably is one of the highest scoring, if not the highest scoring team on the slate, right? So, take a stand and figure out which side you want to be on, and I think I would try to get some players in my lineup from one of those teams.
Do you think gen.g just doesn't score well enough, and that's why they're so much cheaper? Is it as simple as that?
I think so, yeah. I think they've been a little shaky of late. I mean, we know they beat Damwon already this week in a big upset, but before that they were a little bit shaky of late. And I expect them to win. I think them and FPX are the safest teams on this slate in terms of getting the win tomorrow. But I can see gen.g not really putting up the kills that we want. Where FPX are kind of a risk in that sense as well. But I feel better about FPX scoring well than I do about gen.g.
Yeah, I feel like just the way that they usually play ends up with a lot of kills, and even if it's not, like, I feel like a bad result for them in terms of kills is a bad one for gen.g is like 12-3, 13-2,
right?
And FPX is like 16-4. It's just 2 or 3 more kills in each game that's going to make the difference, because they can both smash and both can win in 28 minutes. But if you can get those extra 4 kills per game,
oh yeah,
that's all you need.
Yep, and way more faith in Gen.g to do that. Way more faith in FPX.
There we go.
Than Gen.g. There we go. Which brings us to that last match, right? Man, I want to believe in Sandbox, and I do think they're better than Fred at Breon, but I don't have enough faith that I want to really play them.
Yeah.
I see all their players are more expensive than RNG, and I'm just like, yeah, give me RNG. I mean, I'm not going to play these Sandbox guys.
I mean, they're more expensive than Gen.g in a lot of spots.
I mean, it's nuts. Like, Fate is $200 less than Do and Be.
Uh-huh.
In the mid lane, Fate is more expensive than Knight.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind is playing Fate over Knight? Like, no one. I mean, if you don't want to play, if you want to be on the RNG side of that matchup, just go way down to Cryin. You save $600 and have arguably way more upside. I mean, could Sandbox and Fred at Breon be a bloody, crappy series of two bad teams? It could, but to your point earlier, it's like Fred at Breon and wins don't score well. Fred at Breon's opponent when Fred at Breon loses don't always score well either. So I don't know. That series feels like in a void, but I wonder if Sandbox is pretty low owned because of that. But it's like you look at this slate and it's hard to imagine them having the same kind of upside as an FPX or a Gen.g or the winner of RNG and Top. So it's just hard for me to really go there tomorrow.
Yeah, I just have to imagine that Sandbox is the lowest owned favorite, and the fact that they could be lower owned than RNG also. So from an ownership standpoint, in terms of getting a favorite, I get it, but it's one of those things that you need to you want the lower owned team, the one that wins and the one that scores well, and you only get 2 out of 3 from Sandbox, and you have to pay for them. You're not. Yep. This isn't a slate where you're like, oh, I can play FPX and Sandbox. You you can't do it because Sandbox is so expensive just because they're playing Fred at Breon. So
I mean, I know, man. I like Summit. I think he's been pretty crap all year, but he's in the past been really good. But who's gonna play Summit when you can play Nuguri or 369 or Xiaohu? I'm not going there. That's for sure. I mean, all those guys have way more upside, in my opinion. But whatever. I
just don't think whoever wins that. I'm not. We're not even here thinking Sandbox is a lock to win. But it's just we just don't think they're going to score well enough. Which I'm perfectly fine making this a 3-game slate.
Yeah. I think I'm with you there, man. And
so do you think KT or Victory 5 has a better shot at winning?
Honestly, neither. I hate to do that, but neither really. I don't see either one winning. I think V5 are a better team than KT. I think KT get an opponent who's been a little shakier lately.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think either win, and I think they both get swept, if I'm being honest. So, I mean, it's hard to recommend going there, too, right? Because unless you're, hard stuck on playing Top tomorrow, you can just play RNG at similar prices. I mean, they're obviously a little more expensive, or quite a bit more expensive in terms of, where V5 are. But I don't know, man. I can't really get on board with wanting to play V5 or KT. I think if V5 won, they could score pretty well, but I just don't think they're going to win.
So that's exactly what I was thinking. That I think V5 could score really well if they win.
Yeah.
But I just don't see them winning. That's the problem. I just I don't see them winning. Certainly not sweeping if they won. So I just think you're left hoping that that's the problem that with Top Top is pretty expensive. They're not the most. But yeah, I just think there are going to be enough people who go to RNG. So maybe Top is actually, under-owned. But even then, I'm not sure how much you're getting out of them with those prices and having to play them with an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could be the case, right, where Top is actually lower-owned because people just like their lineups better by way of playing RNG.
Right.
If Top, but I still feel like Top are going to be sort of popular though.
Yeah.
Just because they're a really good team, they score really well when they win and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, to your point, it's I it's just really hard to get excited about what you have to pair top up with. Whereas if you play RNG, you can get excited about who you can pair them with, right? So, yeah, I mean, if I thought top were going to be like 10%, 15% owned, then I'd be like all over them and just take a shot on an underdog just because you're getting top at such low ownership. Like if something goes your way with an underdog, then you're going to profit. But I still feel like top will be pretty highly owned, don't you? I mean, just because they're such a good team.
Yeah, I think like you can play top and Gen G, but does Gen G give you enough that you're not playing FPX?
No, I mean, like, unless you could play Ruler and Jackie Love, which I don't think you can.
You can.
You know, that'd be the only way I'd be like really excited about playing Gen G and top together.
You can do it with the top team slot, so not as
with
fun.
A Gen G long stack.
Yeah. A top long stack.
Okay.
But including the team slot. So not as fun.
Okay, because Gen G's team slot is actually more expensive than top, which makes sense, I guess.
So that's the weird thing is that like Gen G players are all like I think underpriced, but the team slot is the second most expensive.
Yeah, it's because they're pretty popular.
They should, they should be.
That's not a bad lineup build though. Like you get Gen G's bot lane and you get a test top esports long stack in there. Not an awful way to build tomorrow. I mean, the concern is like we said, do Gen G just score enough points? But if you want to play top, I mean that's probably your best way to go about it is pairing them with Gen G, unless you really feel good about one of these underdogs, which we don't. But somebody out there might, which play what you feel. That's nothing wrong with it.
Ironically, the underdog we feel the best about is RNG.
Yeah,
who you're not playing with top.
Right. Yeah, I can't recommend the game stack.
No,
I mean, they could both score really well. It could happen, but on these 4-game slates, I'm just not ever going to be excited about going that way.
I just don't see the loser of that one outscoring a winning FPX and a winning Gen G.
I don't either, man. Yeah.
You don't, yeah.
No.
I'm wondering I wonder how many people just don't play RNG or top.
Well, I mean, I think that's just a risky way to go because I think the winner is arguably the highest scoring team on the slate. I mean, you're going to get good like ownership leverage by doing that, right? Because they're both probably going to be pretty popular. And if it does end up just being a slow series, then you get good leverage elsewhere. But then, like, if you're not playing those two teams and you're playing, I guess you could probably make FPX Gen G lineups.
I was going to say you'll play FPX Gen G and you'll get 60 combined kills.
Yeah. I mean, which is probably not going to be enough. I mean, it just seems to me that RNG top esports is arguably the highest scoring on the slate, and if you don't have it, you could do it if you want to get the leverage. I mean, I don't think it's stupid if that's your play, right? But I just don't expect that series to be a quiet one, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yep.
All right, if you guys have enjoyed the video, if you could please hit the like button below. Feel free to subscribe for all of the RotoWire videos. If you would like to subscribe to RotoWire, you can try us out for free for 10 days at rotowire.com/pod. That's POD. Gets you 10 free days to the site, no credit card required, access to everything that we cover as our subscriber Discord chat, so you can check that out. Ethan, thank you for that, and good luck on Saturday.
All right, same to you, man. Thanks.